Hello, I'm Ann Welton. I'm a board member for Friends of the Northern Wake Senior Center, and I'm excited to have another podcast today. And I'd like to introduce you to Diane Catalano with Heritage Audiology. Diane is an audiologist, and she's going to answer all of our questions about hearing and hearing loss as we age. So Diane, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm really glad to have you. I've got lots of questions.
Well, great.
So tell me, what are some of the common signs or symptoms of hearing loss?
So we start to see hearing loss, usually in more challenging listening situations. So people that come in to see us are frequently having concerns with hearing in background noise, like a restaurant. Now that, we're getting more out and about after COVID, people are back having social situations with their friends and family, and they're really noticing that they're asking other people to repeat themselves. One of the most common things that people also tell me is, I have trouble hearing my grandchildren. Kids who have more kind of higher pitch, sort of softer voices are harder to hear. And it's really important for people to hear those very important family members in their lives.
Absolutely. Well, and how does hearing loss really affect one individually?
So it really depends on the person, absolutely, and depends on how much hearing loss someone might have, how long they've waited. Interestingly, it takes people a while before they first start noticing a hearing loss to when they start to address it. In fact, about 5 to 7 years is average, where they might be saying, well, so-and-so mumbles, or, that person doesn't speak clearly, or I just prefer the television, that loud. But ultimately, people are noticing that they're starting to isolate themselves. They're maybe avoiding that bridge game, or maybe they're having, they're frustrated at themselves or frustrated at the other people that don't, quote unquote, speak clearly. But also, we're seeing some links with things like falls risk. People who have a hearing loss are 3 times more likely to have a fall. And we all know, as we age, we want to avoid falls because of all of the other medical complications.
Can you explain that to me? Because that does not make sense. Why does hearing loss lead to falling risk?
So the inner ear controls both the hearing system and the balance system. So there's 2 parts of the inner ear. One is the cochlea and one is the vestibular organ. So we can frequently see that when one part is affected, then the other part can be too. So there is a lot of data on that connects falling with hearing loss.
That's interesting. That's something I'd never heard of before.
We're trying to get that word out there.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm glad you brought it up. What age should someone just come in for a baseline hearing? What do you call it, a screening?
Sure. So we would just call it an audiology evaluation.
Okay.
Screening's a great word too. Most of the time, people kind of in their maybe early to mid 60s is a good idea. In fact, for anyone that's like Medicare age and older, they typically have their welcome to Medicare primary care provider visit. And one of the things that a primary care is required to ask at that visit is, hey, are you having any difficulty hearing? Are you having trouble in noisy situations? And depending on the answers to those questions, that typically kind of generates a referral to an audiologist. But 1 in 3 people at the age of 65 has some degree of hearing loss or hearing change. So that's, seems like a good number to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or sooner if things are challenging.
Doesn't hurt.
Absolutely not. And super easy to do. Painless test.
No, that's good to know. Well, what should I do if I think I might have some hearing loss?
Again, it's super easy to just schedule an appointment to have your hearing tested. There are audiologists all over the area. We have 2 offices. Heritage Audiology has an office in Wake Forest right on Riders Road, and we have a second office in Briar Creek for some of our North Raleigh residents. Again, a hearing test is a very easy, pain-free, low pressure situation, and it's as easy as, clicking a button when you're hearing some beeps, repeating some words. That way you can really get a baseline. Even if you don't feel like there's a significant hearing loss, even though it might not be affecting your quality of life, easy to have a baseline, because we don't know how quickly some people's hearing progresses versus, other people, might have, kind of more of a gradual situation.
And we didn't talk about this before, but I'm interested in the latest technology for hearing aids. With, I know that we've come a long, long way.
Absolutely.
So if you do discover that you have some hearing loss, what are some of the interesting solutions these days?
Absolutely. Hearing aids, it's a very exciting time to kind of get involved with hearing aids. They are not your grandmother's hearing aids. And a lot of people who I'm seeing now that are kind of in the baby boomer generation, they remember their parents struggling so much. Because I've been doing this for 20 years, and gosh, hearing aids have advanced so much. They're connecting to your smartphone. You can listen to your podcast while you're walking around town. You can also be, listening to your music, hearing your family members better. They look far less conspicuous than they ever did, and people probably have neighbors and family members and friends who are wearing hearing aids that they don't even know, just because they're so less obvious. The sound quality has really improved a lot with the way the technology has advanced. So they sound more natural. They're less challenging than they used to be. So it's really exciting. They're rechargeable. You don't have to change a tiny battery anymore. That can be very challenging as we get older, whether it's due to vision issues or dexterity and that sort of thing.
Interesting. That's so hopeful. So those of us who are Medicare age, which I am, we need to make sure that we are getting our hearing tested and just staying up with it. Because I know, and I've read this before, again, we didn't talk about it, but hearing loss can lead to isolation and things like dementia because you're not connecting with your friends and family. So the ramifications are significant.
Absolutely. But and on the other side, we also have very recent data that says that people who do have dementia do have improvements with the use of hearing aids. So we're really excited to see that connection, because we know that with hearing loss, yes, we're socially isolated. There is more listening effort that we have to put forth in order to hear through a hearing loss, so that cognitive load has an impact on our memory ability. And there's also some interesting data that shows that people with hearing loss that are listening through a hearing loss without hearing aids, there are actual physical changes in the brain because of that increased effort in the auditory portions of the brain. So we
that's interesting.
are happy to see that with hearing aids that can be modified.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to get in touch with Heritage Audiology?
Give us a call. You can visit our website, heritageaudiology.com. And we have, again, 2 locations for serving the community, and we are happy to see you.
Well, this has been so much fun. I've learned so much this morning.
Good, I'm glad.
I really appreciate you being here. Heritage Audiology is a wonderful sponsor and supporter of Friends of the Northern Wake Senior Center, which in turn means that they're supporters of our senior center. So they're wonderful partners, and I highly recommend the audiologists there. The customer service is really terrific. So I recommend Heritage Audiology. Thanks.